Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Thanks for being here. Hey Chad, how are you doing out there? A few hours east of where I live. Anyway, good to see you. Um, Good to see you. Distribution notifications came in hot, huh? I hear you. All right, let's get this show on the road. All right, so tonight's the daily factor. While we're waiting for people to get here, the daily factor is based on my metric, my proprietary metric, the max factor. Now, my metric is better than, or it's something you could use in addition to traditional Wall Street metrics. The truth of the matter is these high yield funds, they yield too much money. They broke the matrix. They broke the total return metric. You can have two high yield funds that have the same total return and they can have vastly different risk and reward properties, even though but at the end of the day, they're compounding your money just as fast. Total return is how your money compounds. But there's total return can be deceiving, I think, in these high yield funds. So anyway, the max factor takes the deceiving part out of it, and it just gives you good information. So what we do is I have a top 20 show once a week. Well, that show will be tomorrow. Usually I record that show, but on every night I've been having a live show called the Daily Factor, and that's where we look into where we take a subset of the high yield funds and kind of look into it. Because I realize when we just look at the top 20, they're the same 20 or 30 funds every week. You know, it's Palti and Hui and whatever's hot, that Coney. It used to be Coney was on it every week, not so much anymore. But anyway, but with the daily factor, we kind of, there's 157 funds, and we get down and look at some of the more unusual ones. All right, so tonight is High Tech Friday night. And we're going to look at Q surrogates or covered call funds based on the Qs. I'm tired. Jackson and I went for a long, hard run right after I got done with my afternoon show and came home, had some dinner, got cleaned up. All right. Well, looks like Jeff's here. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? All right. So let's get in the middle of this. First of all, let's see, max factor analysis. Okay, here we go. Q series analysis. So let's go yield chasing like we always start yield chasing. All right. So the highest Q-based surrogate yield is TQQY. That's from Granite Shares. These guys sell put spreads on leveraged ETFs based on the NASDAQ, or in this case, based on the NASDAQ. So that would be, what's the leverage based on the NASDAQ? Oh, TQQQ. Yeah, of course, they're selling TQQQ put spreads. Now, put spread, people think it doesn't get any upside. That's not all the way true. It is, especially if you sell an in-the-money put spread. It gets the same upside as a caller. Doesn't get a lot of upside, though, because a caller or a put spread, for that matter, has a capped upside. Or even a naked put has capped upside. A naked put's the same thing as a covered call, and a put spread's the same thing as a caller. In any event, it's a synthetic equivalent. Same risk, same reward, same upside, same downside, same everything. So there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about Granite Shares. The problem is, or it's not the problem, but what makes them, the thing that I don't think that people don't realize is what makes them volatile or risky is they're selling options on the leverage product. It doesn't have anything to do with being capped or not. All right. Triple QI, speaking of totally capped upside. This one, I like this one. I have this one in my own portfolio, but it's from Defiance. And these guys they just sell a put, an in-the-money put. Well, an in-the-money put is the synthetic equivalent, same risk, same reward as an out-of-the-money call. So in any event, and they do get a little bit of upside, but not a whole lot. Now, QDTE, these guys are good. These guys are from Round Hill. Round Hill does a great job. And these guys sell, I'm trying to think what they do. I forget the exact mechanics of their trade. But anyway, these guys do a good job. They get about a 37% yield. Then we have QDTY. And these guys get about a 27% yield. Then we have triple QI. Now, triple QI is a good one from our friends over at Neos. This thing gets almost 14% and does a great job. A lot of people really like that one with good reason. QILD from Global X, a lot of people really don't like this one, and with good reason. Now, QLDY is all right. It's been around since 2018. It was the only show in town. It pays 11%. It does what it's supposed to. There's been better things invented since 2018, in my opinion. This thing just hasn't innovated as much. And then there's JEPQ. This has been around since 2022 from JP Morgan. These guys really do a good job. Pay about a 10% yield. Or on a trailing 12-month basis is 10%. And KQQQ from our good friend Howard Chan over at Curve. Now, speaking of Howard Chan, I'm going to Thursday be watching on Twitter. I'm going to be on a live stream. I'm going to be a guest, I guess, one of Ambassador Kwan's guests. But Howard from Curve is going to be on also. In fact, he's going to be kind of the star. And it's the day of Curve's first distribution announcement and K-Yield's first distribution announcement. It should be fun. That's next Thursday. Then we have GPIQ. Now, this is a good one. This is very steady. It's from Goldman, right? Yeah, Goldman Sachs, based on the Qs. Double QA. Double QA is an equal weight NASDAQ. So instead of being cap weighted like NASDAQ, like the NASDAQ is and the SPY is, this is equal weighted. So let's say there's 100 stocks in the NASDAQ, which there are. Every stock's 1%. Okay, but in the regular NASDAQ, the one that you see on TV, the triple Qs, NVIDIA is like 7%, Apple's like 5%, Microsoft's like 3%. You know, they have higher. They're weighted in relation to their AUM. Then we have triple QX. I don't really know what this one is, but it's been out longer than any of them. I guess we're fixing to find out. I mean, I used to know what it was, but I forgot. I have to look at so many of these every day. And this one's one no one ever asked me questions about, but it's been around so long. I mean, I know it's a covered call fund, but beyond that, I couldn't tell you who the company is. Nuveen. Wow. Okay. So this is a dynamic overwrite fund. So a dynamic overwrite fund, they probably don't sell the same amount out of the distance they probably vary the amount out of the distance out of the money, vary the distance out of the money, I should say, or they might even vary the number of contracts they're selling based on market conditions. But in any event, they have some formula, but it's a dynamic covered call fund. These guys don't pay a lot of yield, but I mean, we'll see how they do. No one ever talks about them. Let's see how much AUM these guys have. It's been around since 2018. Where's the AUM chart? I don't see the AUM chart. It's down there somewhere. It's right here too. AUM. Gosh darn it. Well, I don't see that. Anyway, all right, whatever. It's fine. Anyway, back to the show. So that's triple QX from Nuveen. Then we have EGGQ from Nest Yield. Now this one, I was the first influencer to have content on it, but lately it's got a lot more popular. This came out last December. I remember the day. I think that very day I put content out on it. Then we have CanQ. Now this one is from Calamos, and this is an interesting one. This is a hedged equity fund, but they pay a yield. So they sell options and they pay a yield. Or no, actually, but that's the thing. It's an uncapped fund, so they don't sell options. They own the NASDAQ synthetically through options, and so it doesn't tie up as much money. And then with all that extra money they have, it only ties up about 20% of the money to keep a synthetic position on in the NASDAQ. So they have their synthetic position on. With the other 80% of the money, they go out and they buy government bonds. They buy high yield corporate bonds. They buy no telling what, but they buy a lot of fixed income investments. They put together a fixed income portfolio. Their fixed income portfolio probably pays, 8 or 9%. Well, they take about half that fixed income portfolio and buy puts to hedge out the downside. and then they take the other half, and that's that 5.4% yield, and they pay it to everyone as a yield. So you get a yield, but you don't get the yield by selling options. You get it through a fixed income portfolio, and then you get exposure to the market through leverage. And so even though this isn't a leveraged fund, they take advantage of that. Okay, what is going on here? Why does it say, oh gosh, okay, let's close that last tab. It's slowing down the computer. Oh, there's my new headshot. I just took that tonight. All right. So back here. All right, CanQ, and then the lowest paying would be QILG. This is from Global X. And this, we've already looked at another one from Global X, QILD. It pays 11.7. QILG pays 5. QILG is the same fund that QILD is, except they only write options on half the portfolio. So half of the portfolio is uncapped, but that you only get a 5% yield. So it's similar to CanQ, because you get kind of a low yield, but they find ways to uncap the upside, creative ways to uncap the upside. Now we'll see how they do. Lots of times these really creative strategies don't do that well. I mean, you never know. All right. Well, so that's the yield chasing segment. So now let's look at the stability factor. And I've renamed this. This is now called relative stability. This is the stability relative to the broader market. So think of it as a percentage. Think of it on a scale of 0 to 1. 1's the broader market. So this is 1.84. So this is 1.8 times as unstable, or it's 1.8 times as stable as the broader market. So in other words, it's more stable. It's more stable. So, and we would expect that. QILD, from Global X, that is a stable one. JEPQ from JP Morgan, very stable, and very stable. QILG, also very stable. Lots of times the ones that pay the low yields are stable, but not always. Anyway, then we have WQA, the equal weight fund, and it is, hang on. Oh, I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Well, anyway, these are the ones that are at least market stability or above are CanQ, GPIX, or GPIQ, Triple QX, WQA, QILG, JEPQ, and QILD. These are all markets at least as stable as the market. Now, on the less stable list would be these ones right here. Triple QI, although it's a 97, so it's 97% of stable market. It's pretty much a stable market. We have Triple QY, it's a 93 on stability, so about 7% under the market stability. Then we have QDT. I thought QDTY was already, oh no, QDTY from Yield Max. Anyway, these are the ones that are a little bit on the less stable side. KQQ, QDTE, the Granite Shares Fund, TQQY, and then EGQ. Not that these aren't good funds, but they move up and down more. They're more wild. It's going to be a wilder ride getting there. There's more to life than stability, but it's one of many things we can look at. All right, so we'll look at sustainability later. Let's talk about the max factor. So what do you guys think? Who's going to win? So I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to say, and I don't think I've looked yet, but I'm going to say, let's just look. Who would I choose? I mean, I like to yield chase. Now, QDTY pays a lot of yield, but it has negative NAV. That's not going to win. Triple QI, no, and it's not stable enough. Here's one 13% with stable NAV. Triple QI, that one could make a good case, but probably, I hate to say it, but probably QILD or JEPQ will win, because probably JEPQ will win because it pays 10% and it has 4% positive NAV. I don't know. We'll see, because we'll see. So let's run it and let's see who we have. Oh, yes, QILD from Global X. Now, I know that's kind of crazy, but the numbers are there. I mean, it has the highest yield, and it has good NAV, and it has great stability and great sustainability. I mean, part of the reason it has great sustainability is because the yield's kind of low, but whatever. Then we have JEPQ at number 2. Now, this one is, if you were trying to find one to live off of, I mean, this one's paid at the last quarter, it's paid at 10% yield. or it's paying a 10% yearly yield. So it's paid about 2.5% yield in the last quarter or whatever. But the NAV's also up 4%. Then we have GPIQ, also a really good one, paid 9% with positive NAV. We have the double QAs, which is the equal weight. We have QILG, which is the half overwrite fund from Global X. And then we have Nuveen, Triple QI. I'm kind of surprised Triple QI is that low, but it's a good fund. In fact, there's not a lot of difference in. There's not a lot of difference. I mean, the first two kind of stand out, but then the rest are kind of tied for third. I mean, KQQ is also a great fund. It got penalized because it's a little bit more volatile. So it doesn't make it a bad fund, but that's probably why these didn't get to the top. They're only about half as stable as the ones that got to the top. The max factor looks for the maximum yield you could get, but at a reasonable price. You don't want something that gets 1,000,000% yield, you don't want something that pays 100% yield, but its NAV's down 90%. It might still have a 10% positive return or something, depending on how it happened. But other things being equal, I'd rather have something that paid a 20% yield and its NAV was down 10% and it got a 10% total return than something that was down 90% on NAV, even if it does pay 100% total return and maybe ended up with or pays 100% yield, even if it ended up at the same place. So that's kind of why you see kind of these safer ones go to the top. But in any event, I'm a little disappointed QILD's up there, but GFQ and GPIQ, I don't think anyone would argue with. And I've thought recently about getting double QA. I'm nervous about the market. I'm looking for a place to hide. And I have some cash, and I thought maybe one of the equal weights would still pay yield, still get exposure to the NASDAQ if the market keeps going up, but be a heck of a lot safer. So I do think GFQ, GPIQ, double QA, and QILG for that matter are good funds. If you can deal with the lower payment. So we can get a higher payment, but you kind of have to step out and take a little bit more risk. QDTY from YieldMax makes a 27% yield. The NAV was down a little bit, not too much, granted, and it was kind of unstable, kind of like some of my exes. Anyway, then we have QDTE. They say the same thing about me. Then we have QDTE. This thing's, lots of yield is from Round Hill, but it's NAV's going backwards and it's kind of unstable. And then we have Granite shares. I mean, that's the most yield, but it's also the most risk. And, the NAV's down a little bit. So other things being equal, I think that's a pretty good list. The sustainability list is something I made for trying to live off of. If you're trying to live off of these, I was trying to find ones that had sustainable yield or make a metric. Well, anyway, as soon as I got through making the metric, it's in the same order as the max factor. So I'm gonna get rid of. I mean, the max factor used to put unsustainable ones in there, but I modified the metric to include tax liability, so to factor in tax consequences. And as soon as I did that, it made it pretty much the same. So anyway, short-term max factor, stability, whatever you want to look at. These are the ones right here. And I don't think anyone would argue if you had to put all your money in any one fund and you had to live off it, that, JEPQ, GPIQ, would be, or triple QI, or even KQQ. There's some good choices in here if you had to live off it, but you might not want to try to live off of, some of the other ones. So anyway, but you do you, not financial advice. I'm just trying to make metrics that help out people and to help us understand the interaction between risk and reward. All right. So let's see what's going on here. Jeff is here also from Baltimore. Thank you for being here, Jeff. Oh gosh, I forgot there's no stock market, because no Sunday market and no Monday market. What I do on days off is catch up on my influencing and stuff, but I watch futures. Even though our market's not open, especially if it's like a holiday in the West, but not around the world, the futures will trade other places, and there's something called Weekend Wall Street, and it'll always tell you where futures are. But you can also look at You can also look at TradingView and just look at stock index futures. Stock index futures, even on Monday, will be open like 8 to 12 or something like that. And then they'll open again at 5 o'clock Monday night. So, but yeah, it sucks but there's no option trading for sure. There's no, did we see something about the government opening back up? So let me show you this here. I put this link in Discord, but a lot of people aren't in Discord. This Week in Wall Street's owned by the same company that Tasty Trade is. But if anything's happening on the weekend, you can look at this, and this will show you where futures are going to open, or if futures are trading right then where they'd be. This isn't the best demo because it's saying unchanged. Surely it's not really unchanged. It's just thinking about it. But for instance, if they come out in the morning, they say we have a deal, you can check Weekend Wall Street, because even though Wall Street's not open, people are trading overseas. And this Weekend Wall Street will look at prediction markets and look at contracts for difference, CFDs, which is what they trade in overseas. But anyway, so we can check here. It's saying 0, but it's still thinking this isn't that big of a deal. But anyway, Weekend Wall Street's a great tool. There's talk of a compromise. All right. Well, I really think that helped the market. But there's two things that have been weighing heavy on the market. One thing is Bitcoin has just been in the dumps. It's in a bear market. Well, let's look at a chart. I mean, and Bitcoin comprises a large part of the risk assets. And so it's a kind of a leading indicator. In the old days, people used to look at the Qs to try to predict what the spies were going to do. And they'd say, okay, tech always leads. Well, nowadays, the new tech is Bitcoin, and people will look at Bitcoin to see what the Qs are going to do and what the SPY's going to do by exception. But let's look here. The other thing you can do is, of course, you can look at Bitcoin because it trades 24/7. And if there's a deal, it will, or if the market's blowing up, lots of times it'll be going up too. Anyway, this is great. We really want to take back this moving average. This is a 200 period moving average. We've already taken the 50 back, and the 50 period moving average is even sloping up. It's going to take a while before we can get the 200 period to slope up, but one step at a time. One step at a time. It was a good relief rally today, but I mean, it could just be they always say buy the rip or buy the dip, sell the rip. But in a downward trending market, you generally want to sell rips. Like you could have sold this one the other day and done all right. By Monday, maybe people will be wishing they would have sold that one. I don't know, or we'll see. But in any event, we need to get Bitcoin going the right direction to get this market back on its feet. But in the second thing that's weighing on it is just the market hates uncertainty. It's not like when they opened up the government, things are going to get better, but the vibes will get better because there's people that aren't getting paychecks, and even people that have money in the bank, and maybe their friends aren't getting paychecks, and everyone's mad and upset and stuff. As soon as they open the government back up, the vibes will get better again. Not to mention, and then that will make sure that will help the Santa Claus rally, because I think part of the Santa Claus rally is caused by Christmas spending and just general optimism. And of course, it's more than that also. It also has to do with end of year tax loss harvesting and positional stuff. But in any event, that opening the government would be a big deal. We got to get that thing open again. Got to get that open again. Not to mention if anyone's traveling this weekend, the airports are shut down. My daughter went out to see my dad. He lives in Coronado, or San Diego, which is where Coronado Island is. But anyway, and she's out there right now, but I hope she can get back. They were showing the lines at LAX, and it was crazy. Now, she's not flying out of LA. She's flying out of San Diego, but still, when you have the one airport shut, slowing down, it slows down the whole system. So it may take her a while to get home. So Froggy's saying it's wild that some of these funds were not able to recover from the April drop with the ripping market all summer. Yeah, so somebody said something in the afternoon stream that I was thinking about when I was jogging. I always think about stuff later. Somebody was saying, and I'm not being critical of them, but I wanted to let's talk about this. They were talking about Granite shares, and they were saying, well, look at XBTY. It could have been you, Froggy, and it's not, but no big deal. They say, now look, XBTY has sucked and Bitcoin's been in a huge rally or whatever. So, and I agree with 90% of that. Bitcoin hasn't been in a huge rally for the time that XBTY came out in May. IBIT was at 59 and now it's at 58. Now, I'm not saying that XBTY hasn't underperformed and doesn't maybe still suck, but Bitcoin used to be in a huge rally, a month ago, but it's at least from May to now, it's given back all of its gains. This is still no excuse for XBTY. I mean, because, they say in a sideways market, the covered call ETF should do good. These guys are selling leveraged options. Leverage works both ways. So that's all it is. But if we ever get back in a ripping bull market, like, when was the crypto high? Probably like October 1st or something, about a month ago, October 5th, whatever. Or wait, let's look at October 5th and okay. Yeah, I mean, it still did do great, but I mean, its total return was up 6%. It only got about half of the parent's upside. So I'm not saying there may not be a problem here or that I'm interested in getting it right now. The one I would get, and I have got, I eat my own cooking, BITK. And I bought some of this the other day. I bought it one day before Bitcoin was down, before the huge drop. I think I bought it Tuesday and then Bitcoin cratered Wednesday. No, I bought it Wednesday or Monday and the Bitcoin cratered the next day and I could have got it way cheaper. In any event, it's only been around since September 24th, but you could see this thing. It's Matthew Tuttle managed property. It's the same guy that manages T-SPY and TDAC. They use 0 DTE options and it's a similar strategy to T-SPY. A lot of people like T-SPY. This thing's a winner, I think. This thing's a winner. I have like 6% of my account in it, and I wouldn't mind getting more. Look at this dividend. So this is, I started. This is only, hang on a second. Let's get this. Let's get a little bit more data. More data is good. I was going to say it's not doing that well because, I mean, not as good as that chart did. Okay. But it's not way outperforming the underlying. It's sticking right with the underlying. But what I wanted to show is the yield. This is 1/8 of a year, and it's paid $2.63. What's 8 times $2.63? 16, 20, $21, right? Something like that. So think about that. This costs $25, and it's on pace to pay $21 back. Now, granted, it hasn't looked great, but it's matching the underlying just perfectly, and somehow paying a yield. I mean, So I think there's definitely a lot of potential in that one. I'm definitely excited about it. All right. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. QDTE is ODTE, right? Yes. Yes, it is. QDTE is from Roundhill and they sell ODTE options, but they don't cap themselves at night. It's it's not Matthew Tuttle. It's the same thing that Matthew does, but actually Roundhill was the first people to do this. They sell 0 DTE options in the morning and cover them, at 4 o'clock, right when the market closes. They get some premium, but then they're uncapped all night long. QDT is a good one. I like QDTE. I missed the boat on that one. I didn't realize how good it was going to be. I was still in love with Triple QI at that point. Triple QI does what it's advertised to do, but I think QDT was a better alternative. And of course, I didn't realize that. So yeah, Froggy's saying that not happening until after Thanksgiving. Are you serious? You don't think the shutdown's ending until after Thanksgiving? Anyway, okay. Well, I mean, gosh darn it, man. Let's see. I know that it's like you hear capped upside, but don't believe it until you would. No, yeah, true. And there's different degrees of capped. I mean, there's partially uncapped, there's fully uncapped. And some of the fully uncapped strategies doesn't necessarily make them a better strategy. There's still something in the market called path dependency. Even, even if you knew, hey, this asset's going to be up 10% at the end of the year, depending on how it gets there, it makes a difference in what a covered call could yield. So yeah, but you do. And so that's what the max factor's for. My sustainability index well, it's trying to just tries to, and the max factor is trying to point people towards the ones that are sustainable and that aren't overpaying, even though I don't really agree with this. You can't really overpay. They just pay what the option generates. But some strategies aren't pay too much. Let's just say that. Strategy's fault. Santa Rally, hurry down my chimney. Heck yes. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. And really, after the pullback we've had, maybe we pull back a little bit more next week or whatever, but then something happens and or whatever, buyers, it goes back low enough where buyers start buying again, and that could set up a beautiful rally for the end of the year. Got to trash the economy and bring down approval rating. Airline travel crash the market. Yeah, I mean, if they don't get this open up and people can't get home for Thanksgiving, it's also a vibe economy, people. So yeah. So anyway, hopefully cooler heads will prevail. Hey, Grumpy, thanks for being here. Yeah, speedy thumbs for sure. Okay, what is Jeff saying? Sell all your altcoins on the next pump 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, we're getting pretty long in the tooth on the crypto rally, but I hope we have a couple more legs in this or whatever. But yeah, we may not. And I'll remember, I lived through the one I really remember was like 2019. Didn't it rally in like 2018? And I don't know. I'd have to look at a Bitcoin chart, but yeah, I remember it was in the dumps for a long time. Then of course, between 2022 and 2024, it was not good. I think it dropped all the way from like 60 to like 13,000 or something. 16,000 from like 50 or 60. People back then were saying it's going to be 100, and they thought it was going from 60 to 100 right then, and it did eventually get to 100, but it went to 15 first and then went there. Now people are saying it's going to be 200. People are saying it's going to be 200 by Christmas or whatever. I hope so, but maybe maybe it goes back to 50 first and goes to 200 in a couple of years. I don't know. Like I say, it's not a straight path getting there. CanQ, do you like Can? Yeah, CanQ is it's a really interesting strategy. Oh shoot, I was just thinking I'd left QLDY off here, but I didn't. It doesn't have enough. It's not old enough to be in the max factor. It's on the Epstein list, so to speak. All right. Or you know what I'm saying. It's one of the ones that gives you a massage. All right. Heck yeah. Together in poverty. I hope not. Michael Anthony's here. I haven't seen you around here in a while. Weren't you the one? There used to be a person that came in here. I thought it was your name. It could have been somebody else, and was always saying they liked MRK, which is a great ETF. I'm just like, I don't know that much about. It doesn't pay a yield, and I mean, I know it's a great company. It's not a great, But anyway, maybe it wasn't you. But but which is the best? And is any of these safe from a recession? I mean, I'll still be in these. I'll still have mine, but I have other investments, and I'm not trying to live off of these. If you thought a recession was coming and you're using these to live off of, or you're on margin, yeah, I don't think they would be good. But generally speaking, I'm going to say the safest ones, the safest all-weather type of funds are the NEOs, Triple QI, SPY-I, or JP Morgan, JetQ. And part of it's because they don't pay a lot of yield. And so they don't have that much of a tax on the upside. They're still going to go down, but I don't think they'll get hurt as bad as the other ones. If I had, like I always say, if I had to put all my money in any one of these, it'd probably be Triple QI or Big Y. Big Y is a good one also, but you don't get as much yield as you do in the high yield ones. But anyway, all right. Yeah, I'm sure about that. Woo, the Ric Flair voice. That's one thing I never got into when I was a kid is professional wrestling. My friends all liked it and stuff. I always thought it was stupid. I mean, I did some things that all my friends smoked cigarettes. I thought that was stupid. Anyway, no, okay. The max decks, see what I have too many metrics. What I've made the max decks The max dex is the sustainability index. Okay. Well, I made a change to the max factor itself to make it look for status. Basically, the two indexes are going to merge. They're giving me the same results. The new max dex is I really want a main metric. And so the max factor, the short-term max factor is the max dex. We could call it that. Now we have Jonathan's index, the Quandex, and we can look at that too tonight. Now, Jonathan's index is for growers and showers. If you guys were at the afternoon show, I made a joke about that, but no, it shows the max factor. I'm looking for a grower that's also a shower. I don't want to be a grower, I don't want to be one or the other. I just want to be both of them. So the showing part is the big yield, and the growing part is the big nav. And so, I'm both of my indexes, short term and long term, are looking for growers and showers. Hey, Bank Account Bonus Central, how are you doing? I've never seen you in here before. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, Weekend Wall Street. It's an IG property, and it really is good. I don't know why it didn't work tonight, but hey, I'm watching that movie right now, One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It has DiCaprio in it and a bunch of people, Sean Penn, and it's really good. I'm about an hour into it, but I stopped it to do this show. Okay, let's go back here. I was trying to find Weekend Wall Street to see if it got going because it really is good. You could even use Weekend Wall Street to play the market on the weekend. I'm not advising that. I've never done it, but I think you can't be in America though. But if you're in a foreign country, the other day we were talking to Mayer, a guy named Mayer. He spells it like John Mayer, and then it has some numbers after, but he's in Israel. I bet he could do Weekend Wall Street. So in other words, you can buy or sell the market on the weekend. Right here, they have the sell price and a buy price. In other words, a bid and an ask. And then they'll give you a little chart. And I'm trying to, hopefully this will come up. We can let it think about it while we're going over here. But we should look at the Quandex also. We definitely want to look at the Quandex. So let me just get through with the questions. Make sure there's nothing going on here and here. Play on crypto is a 2029 run. Gosh, that's what I'm afraid of. Why didn't I know that before I freaking bought a bunch of blocks? Because blocks is not going to be any good if crypto enters here. Or nothing wrong with blocks. I mean, I'm just saying, but they'll have to change strategies and they'll have to do something. It won't be fun. It won't be as fun as it has been. That's all I'm saying. I love blocks. I love blocks. Josh the Vegan. Government open equals money printer burr. Yeah, I agree. And like I say, and it also just makes people happy. When people are happy, they want to spend money. Make it rain, baby. Give me RIP USA. I haven't seen that ad. But I watch stuff all weekend, a bunch of political stuff. I'll see it. I'll keep an eye out for it. Even Tom Lee saying the 150 Bitcoin is questionable. So he's hedging. Oh my gosh, I wish I'd have known that before I loaded up on blocks. Well, hopefully we get one more push in us, but we've already given up. I mean, we're in a bear market on Bitcoin. I mean, a bear market starts at 20% down, and we're off recent highs, and we dropped from. And it sucks to go off the very high, but even off the highest trading range, it's trading at 123 in a range, and it was there it didn't just barely touch it. And so I'm being generous here. So basically it dropped from being in a trading range at 123, 122, something like that, to 103. So that's a 20, we're 20%. That's where a bear market starts. I think correction territory starts at 10% or 10%. And we've been in a correction and we're in a bear market. If we slip further, we're going to definitely be in one. Or if you measure it from the dead highs, we are in one. I just don't think that's necessarily fair. But anyway, let's get back over here. Lots of good comments tonight. Yeah, just put max if it's saying you want me to say something about, and then I'll just kind of scan through the rest of them. Okay, you've been here before from Katie. Okay, I always say, yeah, my friends are from. I have my two best friends in Austin or one's from Katy and one's from Cypress, but they're from West Houston. Anyway, kick ass. Oh, and you make Round Hill video reviews. Okay, well, you're welcome. I don't care if you put a link to your latest video in the comments, and I'll tell my guys to go watch it. I like to support other influencers. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Put a link to your latest video or put the name of your station. That's awesome. I remember when I was brand new, for whatever reason, Rod took a liking to me, but he likes all the young influencers, and he, he let me do the same thing. I was giving a comment, and he let me promote my station. Heck yeah. Yes, like and subscribe. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, they're right. The money printer works both ways. It's just like leverage. Money printer's good, just like leverage can be good. In a bullish market, you leverage whatever, or like margin. Money printer's margin, basically. It's it's basically margin. All right, we got another troll in this house, but I banned him. All right, basically margin. It's the same type thing. When you're on margin, the market's going up every day. It's like, I can't lose, and I'm not even tying up as much money, and I'm making but it works both ways. The money printer helps, and it can help initially, and get you through an emergency or whatever, but then it has a bad side too. All right. Let's see there. Yeah. Burr. West Side. Heck yeah. West Side. In Oklahoma City, we have a South Side. We always say the South Side's the bad part of Oklahoma City. I guess it'd be like, I don't know where the bad part of Houston is, but it's not West Houston. I mean, I don't know if it's East. It could be just different parts. But anyway, Bank Account Bonus Central on YouTube. Okay, I'll go watch that, and I'll go watch that. That sounds good. Bank Account Bonus Central. All right. Well, the trolls are back, but I banned them. But I mean, I'm surprised they haven't called yet. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. What else do you guys want to talk about? Let's look at the Quandex, which is the long term. And if you have any questions about any funds, or you want me to look at it, now would be the time to ask. All right, so this is the entire max factor. And let's just go, and let's look at Jonathan's index. Jonathan Kwan helped me invent this index. Now, I invented the max factor, but I asked him for help, for ideas and stuff. And I was mainly thinking more for marketing ideas, but he came through with some nuts and bolts ideas also. So the long-term max factor, this thing is it's the Quandex. It's the formula. He just emailed this to me today, and I realized it's a better metric than the one I'm using for the long-term. And if you've noticed, I haven't talked about the long-term max factor in about 3 weeks because I haven't been satisfied with the metrics, the results. It was giving funny results and stuff. Well, now it's fixed. So let me show you. It's more of a genius metric than my metric. My metric, which would be my short-term max factor, it gives a number, but the number doesn't correlate to anything. Jonathan's number does correlate to something. It's the estimated after-tax total return for the ETF. So, for instance, let's look at Palti and GDXY. And let's look at them just in a TradFi way. We'll just do it like this. Palti and GD. Hang on. I just want to make sure it's not the trolls. That's the one I have to block. Yeah, I'll go watch that channel, though. I love Round Hill. I mean, I kind of missed the boat on it. And I kind of made a bad video about XPay, but XPay's proven me wrong so far. But I still prefer other solutions to XPay. But so I don't have any XPay, but I love WPay. I have WPay. WPay's a great ETF. I mean, I'm very happy with WPay. I bought it a few weeks ago. In fact, I sold some Alti to buy it, partially, and some GDXY. But I liquidated some YieldMax stocks, not because I didn't like them anymore. Well, for one thing, they were at a huge profit, and the market was really high, and I thought we might dip. And so, yeah, but one of the things I bought with the dip, I bought during the dip is WPay, and I've been very happy with it. I'm a Round Hill convert. All right, so let's look at the past year on these two. So if you look at total return, dividends, well, dividends not reinvested. The total return for Palti is 83%. The total return for GDXY is 45. Okay, but look over here. The total return, or not the total return, but the Quandex shows a 52.99. That's about how much you would make after taxes. Because remember, the thing is with these high yielding funds is a distribution is charged taxed at the 37% rate. Now, I know that there's return of capital, and sometimes I know that's not always exactly right, but in a worst case scenario, if you have a fund that has no return of capital and you're in the highest tax bracket, you lose 37% of your dividend. Anyway, the Quandex figures that out, so it's showing it can factor that in. It's not the end of the world. You have to pay taxes, but it is something to consider. And so, out of that 80% that you would see if you went to a total return calculator, you might end up taking about 52% of it home, and a little bit more if it was a lot of return of capital. But GDXY, I think the total return was like 50, but you end up with 30, 32. This is how much you clear after taxes. Anyway, so these are the good ones on a long-term basis. Palti, GDXY, Snowy, Silvo, Goop, iDevo, iGold, Gold GUI, and Clip. And it's not like these just have super low yields, and that's how they, heck, Palti has a 96% yield and is leading the long-term max factor. Now, there's some other ones that have low yields that are super stable, and that's how they got on here, like iDevo. But heck, even iDevo, people like me that are yield chasers see the 5.3% yield and they think, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. Well, yeah, you factor in that the NAV's up also, and then, and then you look back a year, and no, it actually is. After taxes, it's doing very well. So be looking for more of that. I'm going to have the top 20 show tomorrow, and we'll have the top 20 short term and the top 20 long term. Now, since you guys watch this every night, you guys can probably guess the ones that'll be number one. Heck, we know Palti's going to be number one on the long term X Factor. But anyway, the show's fun, and tune in anyway. It'll be tomorrow, but if there's any specific funds you guys want me to look at, I'd be happy to look at any specific funds. Yes, I know it is. I know it is. I like calling it the Quandex or the growers and show. But yes, it's and I was trying to explain it and not sound as technical, Ambassador. But yes, it's the post-tax. I'd call it the real cash. I would call it the real cash return, because yield, it's the real return. I mean, but anyway, but really, either which way. I made a metric a long time ago that called true yield, and I forget how I do remember, but yeah, but I've always been looking for a true yield. But Jonathan came up with it. Yeah. So, but the real cash yield is the long-term max factor, because that's the other thing. Over the short-term max factor is more of a trading index, and it's more of a momentum index. But over the course of a year, when you're looking for longer-term investments, taxes are paramount. So I think it's really going to be great synergy that Jonathan's letting me use his real cash yield. But I basically stole it and turned it into the long-term max factor. But it's the real cash yield. You could also call it that way also. Now, and I'm looking at a way of incorporating return of capital. If I had a good source, if there was a piece of data that I could pull that showed the fund's trailing 12-month return of capital, I mean, I could maybe have, someone program one for me in Python or something. But if there's a good source, because I know I can go to the YieldMax site and scrape it, and they have all the return of capital. So I can figure out how to do that. But how do I get the return of capital on Nuveen? And how do I get the return of the ROC on the other ones? That's what I'm worried about. But yes, I at some point in the future, I may also incorporate ROC into the real cash yield. Yeah. So, all right, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Said it perfectly. Who said it perfectly? Did I say it perfectly? Or anyway, all right. Yeah, LFG, the Quandex. I called it the Quandex also because Jonathan gave it to me. I felt bad about ripping them off, but anyway, I think he was trying to help me. He saw that I was struggling and coming up with bad metrics that didn't mean anything. It's great when the metric also corresponds to something tangible. And like I say, the short-term max factor doesn't. It's just a number. But the long-term max factor, it corresponds to your after-tax true return, or call it your real cash yield, right? Last call before I jump. ICP crypto final fire. Oh yeah. I don't know what that means, but anyway. ABK, I don't know what that means. Yeah, real cash yield is the new metric. Most yield max funds are return to capital. Absolutely. The other thing, even if I don't include the return to capital, the real cash yield is kind of a worst case scenario because it assumes you're in the highest tax bracket, which you may not be. It assumes it's in a taxable account, which you may have it in a Roth, but most people have it in taxable. But so it assumes you're in the highest tax bracket in a regular account, and it assumes there's no rock. But that way, so it might be a low estimate, because I'd rather people think, oh, this, I'd rather people be surprised, on the upside than the downside. I'm just conservative by nature. I try to always aim on the downside, or miss on the downside. Yes, college football Saturday morning. I'm going to have my Oklahoma Sooners jersey on. I'm going to have and I'll be watching all the games. I can't wait. Sometimes I even do a Saturday morning live stream. In fact, maybe I'll just do the top 20 show live. So maybe, but I like to record it because it gets like 10 times as many views. Like these shows that I do live, I get, 200 views. And if I would when I record the top 20, it gets 1,000 views, 1,500 views. And I had a great month last month, but my numbers this month are in the dump. I made like $3 yesterday and $2 the day before. I'm like at $5 for the month. So anyway, I need to start cooking. I need to start making some content. All right. So Michael, what are you saying? You don't understand all these. The market goes down if these follow the yield. Okay. So I still don't understand any of these, that if the market goes down, if these follow that, the yield means nothing. Well, yeah, okay. So, but if the market goes up, you get the yield plus you get some upside. Think about this. I'm not trying to talk you into these, but let's say I invest in a high yield fund, and I invest in a crypto-based high yield fund that's going to pay covered calls, and I'm supposed to get 50%, whatever. And I invest today. And let's say because you don't do that, you just invest in crypto itself. Okay, but then crypto winter hits. You're going to lose money too. We're both playing the market. I'm going to lose money, and I'm going to get a little bit of a yield. But yeah, these don't insulate you from losing money. Nothing does it. At the end of the day, you're playing the market and you're making a bullish bet. Now, there's some of these funds that work inverse, and if you thought the market was going down, you could do something different, and you could actually gain on NAV and gain on yield. But yeah, the way I look at it is, if the market goes down, we're both going to lose. But they aren't for everybody. I mean, I'm definitely not trying to talk you into them. They are not for everybody. Hey, thank you very much from the great state of Texas, Mr. Chadwick. I appreciate you very much. But anyway, Michael, do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, if the market goes down, these are going to suck, but everything's going to suck. And at least these pay a yield. But so here's the other rule of thumb. If you aren't, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from some of these guys, but my rule of thumb is, if you aren't over 50 and you have a job, you just get instead of getting Palti, which is a Palantir based covered call fund, just go be a Palantir, because you're working a job. Use your job to support yourself and let your stock portfolio grow until you get to be 50 or something, until you build up some money. And then it's nice. Then you can maybe think about these high yield covered call funds, or you can think about learning how to sell options yourself or whatever, or, but yeah, that's what I would do. But I don't think these are good for, it drives me crazy when I see young guys. And I have a lot of young guys on my Discord. They do a great job and they do different strategies. They're sophisticated, but most of the guys in my Discord, to tell you the truth, don't mess with these. But I have a Discord that's mainly full of option sellers, and the guys in my Discord do covered calls, short puts. They do the same strategy these funds do. They just do it themselves because it's fun, they're smart, and they save money. But yeah, Michael, these are not for everybody, for sure. I hear you. Yeah, okay. I think it can have a role for somebody that doesn't have a job, because yes, you know these aren't the greatest thing ever, but they do pay a yield. So it bond. Their thing is how, go invest in bonds. Bonds, you know, will pay a yield in retirement, but they aren't the greatest thing ever. They don't make near as much as the stock market. Okay, well, you got a yield. Covered call funds don't make near as much as the stock market generally, but you get a yield. I mean, it's a totally different investment, but they definitely aren't for everybody, and they definitely aren't for everybody. The perfect use case, there's one perfect use case for these, for using them as a young person. You have a couple that's married. He's a lawyer, so but you know he's still working, but you know he has a $750,000 you know 401k, and he has a brokerage account somewhere. You know they aren't rich, but they're doing all right. All right, and he has a wife, and she's a school teacher because she put him through law school, and they're 35. Well, she wants to have kids and stay home with the kids. You know his law practice is just taking off. He makes 150 a year, but they live in Austin or they live in LA. Okay. Well, let's say when she was a school teachers do have good benefits. She's been a school teacher since she was 18 or 21. And, you know, now she's 40. So she has a $400,000 401k, $300,000 401k. Okay. Well, you know, his 401k will be fine someday, and it's more than hers anyway. She could quit her job. She could take her 401k and she could buy triple QI. And so she has $300,000 and she puts it in, and she put her T-SPY. She puts it in T-SPY that pays 15%. Well, 15% on 300,000, that's pretty good money. She can basically replace her teacher salary, and she can stay home with the kids. That's a good use case for it also. But, you know, there's sometimes when you don't mind not doing as well as the market because you're doing it for a bigger purpose. That to me is the ultimate. If I wish these would have been around when we were having kids, when my wife and I were having kids, I would have loved to have her stay home. But she's just a hard worker by nature. She was in real estate, and I was in wealth management. I was through the 90s and early 2000s, I was a stockbroker, a wealth manager, and then I went into construction, and then I got a drinking habit and we divorced. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. It's all good though. Okay, Michael, what are you saying? ARLP pays a 60-cent dividend that did report this past Monday. Well, I don't know that I've ever heard of ARLP. I'm going to look it up right now though. So you're saying your problem is you don't understand any of these, like QILD, that is cheaper than the rest, and I don't know why. You mean the price of the fund that is cheaper? You mean it pays less yield than the other ones? But in any event, if you don't understand it, you know, don't do it. These definitely aren't for everybody. And if you're older than me, hopefully you save some money or go talk to a planner, and they can put you in something safe and whatever. But I hear you. I mean, I hear you on that. Okay, so let's look at ARLP, because now you have me interested. Anytime I don't know what something is, I want to find out what it is. Is it a closed-end fund or something, or did I type it in wrong? ARLP. Yeah. I'm 59. I just turned 59, Michael. So if you're in your 60s, you're older than me. But all right, guys. Well, in the absence of any questions or anything else, I'm just going back through the comments, making sure I didn't miss anything. West Side. But now, Chad, you live on the east side, don't you? Don't you live on the east side of Houston, or out towards Louisiana? I've never been out there. I've never been out there. All right. Well, like I say, I'll let you guys go. It's Friday night. You guys probably got to go to the club. Just don't pick up a drinking habit like I did. I used to like to go to the club more than I used to like to go to work. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, at first it was all good, and then I started working just to go out. And you know how it is. East Side, yeah, Humble. Okay, that's right. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for being here, and be looking for the Top 20 show tomorrow morning. I might even do it live. So anyway, but I'll see you guys then. All right. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you later. Hey, and thank you for the super chat, Chad.